So I do want to start today's show, at least, with some interesting takeaways I have from Packers general manager Brian Gutekunst. Yesterday, he met with the media. Obviously, as we know, there's a lot of storylines with the Green Bay Packers and someone named Aaron Rodgers about whether he's going to stay in Green Bay or whether he's going to leave. There was three interesting comments the general manager of the Packers made yesterday. One about Aaron Rodgers, one about Devonta Adams, one about Jordan Love. Let's start with the man of the hour, Aaron Rodgers. Shocker, Brian Gutekunst did not say one way or another whether he expects Aaron Rodgers to stay or go, whether he's going to force Aaron Rodgers to stay or go. We didn't get any clarity, any real timeline of when a decision could be made by the two-time reigning MVP quarterback. But I thought what was interesting is something that Gutekunst said about maybe possibly trading Aaron Rodgers. So if we go back to last year, or really last July, right, when Aaron Rodgers finally decided to report to the Packers in training camp and end the saga, if you will, of whether he was going to stay or go, there were some reports out there of a contract alteration where the Packers shaved off 1 year of the contract. So instead of him becoming a free agent after the 2023 season, he is now a free agent after the 2022 season. And it was reported that in the discussion, there was an agreement between Rodgers and the GM of the Packers that Aaron Rodgers would play 2021 with the Green Bay Packers. And then after that season, he would reassess, which he's doing right now, his future. And if he wanted a trade, if he requested a trade, the Packers would honor that. That is what we were told last July when Aaron Rodgers did return. Yesterday, Brian Gutekunst poured cold water on that because he basically made it seem like that's not the case. There's no guarantee that he would trade him. Because after his publicly broadcasted press conference, he had a sit down with local beat reporters after that, and he revealed that he and the Packers still do kind of control the fate of Aaron Rodgers. The GM said basically there was no agreement that we would trade Aaron Rodgers if he asked for a trade. There was no, gentleman's agreement that Aaron Rodgers, if he decides he wants out, we will trade him and we will trade him to the team he wants to go to. I think this is interesting because I don't believe a word he's saying. Aaron Rodgers, as we know right now, is trying to make a decision whether he wants to stay or go. If Aaron Rodgers comes to the conclusion that he wants a trade from the Green Bay Packers this offseason, he's getting it. The Packers aren't going to hold him hostage. And the Packers aren't that dumb to play a hardball with Aaron Rodgers. Because guess what? This has already happened to them once before with a different quarterback, and they were on the losing side. I don't think Green Bay wants a Brett Favre 2.0 situation where not only do you lose the quarterback and he goes to another team, Brett Favre went to the Jets and the Vikings to finish out his career, not only do you lose the player, then you also have him walking out the door upset. You upset the fan base and you make a bad situation worse. Right? If Aaron Rodgers says, I want to trade, and Brian Gutekunst, Mark Murphy, the Packers president, saying, no, we're not trading you, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to say, okay, I'm going to play for you. Aaron Rodgers, from what we know, is someone who beats to his own drum, does not like being told what to do, and I don't think he would take kindly to, if he does decide, I want out, I don't think he would take kindly to the Packers saying, sorry, we're not trading you. I do think if push comes to shove, Aaron Rodgers could retire for a year. Think about it. He's only under contract for one final season. I do think he's petty enough. He is headstrong enough to where if the Packers don't say we're trading you, I think he would sit out for a year, retire, and then come back and force a trade or become a free agent and go somewhere else. I think one way or another, Aaron Rodgers would get what he wants and be playing on a new team. So I don't think the Packers are dumb enough to, again, have a Brett Favre 2.0 situation happen where you lose the player and you upset the all-time great player / upset the fan base as well in the process of doing so. I think if Aaron Rodgers forces a trade, he would absolutely get what he wants. Not to mention, if he does retire, by the way, he would love the attention. Right? Like, if Aaron Rodgers truly wants to send a message, he would retire and he would bask in everyone worrying about his next move and always kind of seeing what he's up to. He has kind of become someone who loves the spotlight, and he would get quite the spotlight if he does retire in 2022 and come back as a free agent in 2023. So if he does request a trade, I don't think the Packers would say no, and I do think they would trade him, despite the fact that Brian Gutekunst yesterday said there's no agreement between the Packers and their quarterback to trade him if he asks. Well, that was very interesting. Let's move to Devonta Adams. Because Devonta Adams, I'd argue, is one of, if not the best wide receiver in the NFL. And guess what? He wants to be paid like it. Right, deservingly so. He wants to be the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. The interesting part for the Packers is they have a few different ways to keep Devonta Adams on the field, on the team. He's a free agent, right? They could obviously give him a long-term extension, keep him in Green Bay. They also could use the franchise tag. So you have a few different options here for how you want to attack keeping Devonta Adams on the field. Yesterday, I want to play this for you. Brian Gutekunst was asked about, would you use the franchise tag on Devonta Adams just to keep him in Green Bay? Here's what the Packers GM had to say.
It's not something we like to do. We'd certainly, not like to do that if we don't have to. We'd certainly like to come up with a long-term deal that works for both sides. But that's, it's a hypothetical that a lot of things have to happen before we get to that point.
Well, in terms of your plan, is there a scenario in which you wouldn't tag or extend Davante Adams to? Could he walk, or could you let him walk?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, again, like I said, I think there's a lot of things to be determined there.
The last part of that little chunk, the second answer he gave is alarming. Could you allow Davante Adams to walk? Is there a situation in your mind where you see Davante Adams not be on the Packers in 2022? You just heard Brian Gutekunst say, yeah, possibly. That's a reality. That absolutely cannot be a reality. You absolutely cannot allow Devonta Adams to walk as a free agent this offseason, because guess what? It would do one of two things. Both are really bad for the Packers. Number one, I think it would cost Aaron Rodgers. If Devonta leaves, if he's on another team that isn't the Green Bay Packers next year, I think Aaron Rodgers is as good as gone. We have heard now Aaron Rodgers multiple times through different press conferences throughout the year discuss and kind of hint almost that his future in one aspect will be determined by where Devonta Adams is. Right, we have heard him even just this week when he was on Pat McAfee's show on Tuesday, basically say part of my decision-making is seeing if the Packers are going to franchise tag Devonta Adams. I want to, at least I interpret that as Aaron Rodgers saying before he commits himself to staying in Green Bay for what will probably be the rest of his career, he wants to ensure that the best receiver in the NFL, the guy he has developed a relationship with, the guy Aaron Rodgers, who has called the best player he's ever played with. He's played with Charles Woodson. As we know, the Packers have had greats all throughout Aaron Rodgers' time. He called Devonta Adams the greatest player he's ever played with. Rodgers wants to make sure that player is on the team before he commits to his future. So I do think if you are the Packers and you are unable to get a long-term deal done, for whatever reason, you don't franchise tag Devonta Adams and he ends up walking out the door and signing with any of the other 31 teams, Aaron Rodgers is a goner. He is not staying in Green Bay. He's not going to be thrown to Allen Lazard or Marquez Valdez-Scantling as his number one option. Adams is gone. Rodgers is gone. So there is that fact right there, numero uno, why there is absolutely no excuse, no chance you can allow Devonta Adams to walk this offseason. Number two, it would hurt also Jordan Love, right? Whether it's Aaron Rodgers under center in 2022 or whether it's Jordan Love, it doesn't matter. You need Devonta Adams on your team next year and in years beyond that, because you got to give your quarterback the best possible option to succeed. Right? This offense needs Devonta Adams. You take him out. Sure, you have Aaron Jones, who's a good running back. You have a good offensive line there in place. You have some decent weapons around. But this offense, with how much volume Devonta Adams gets, with how much attention he gets from different defenses, he is an important part of the offense to where outside of Rodgers, he is by far the most important piece for this Green Bay offense. You now, if you are putting a first-time starter in Jordan Love, who's going to try, if he ends up being the starter in 2022, to replace Aaron Rodgers, the two-time reigning MVP. Well, if you want him to have success, if you don't want him to flop, you need the best receiver in the NFL to be out there on your team. So bringing Davante Adams back, even if Aaron Rodgers decides to go elsewhere, is imperative because then at least gives Jordan Love a chance to succeed. It gives him now a reliable weapon that makes his transition from bench backup role to starter in year number 3 an easier one than if he's not there and you're kind of, starting from scratch on the offense, especially starting from scratch in the wide receiver room. So if you're Brian Gutekunst, you heard him say there's a possibility that Devonta Adams could leave the Packers this offseason. There should be zero excuse to not get this deal done. Devonta wants to be the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. That means eclipsing right now DeAndre Hopkins' average annual salary of $27.3 million per season. That's number one. That's the bar right now in the NFL for wide receiver salary, and he should absolutely clear it. There's no question in my mind. He is one of the few players where you make a salary demand and I would say, okay. I wouldn't argue, wouldn't push back. You want to give Devonta Adams $28 million a season? I don't care if he's 29 years old. You do it. He has earned the money. And again, he is too important to, one, keep Aaron Rodgers in town. And two, if Rodgers is gone, make Jordan Love's transition easier to the starting role. So you absolutely, it is imperative for you to keep Adams in Green Bay. Give him the extension. Worst case scenario, franchise tag. He doesn't want to be franchise tagged. You have until March 8th to do so. The Packers have said, you heard Brian Gutekunst, that's the last possible resort. Doesn't matter. You need to do, whatever you can to keep the great Packers receiver in town for 2022 and beyond. Speaking of Jordan Love, the last thing I want to bring up here, the last interesting thought I had from this press conference was the future of Jordan Love. If Aaron Rodgers stays in Green Bay, I'm going to assume, I think it's widely assumed, he's going to get a new deal. Right? He's a free agent after this season, after the 2022 season. I don't think he's just going to stay in Green Bay for 1 year, then call it quits. I think if he's going to return, it's going to be on a new deal, and he's going to end his career in a Packers uniform. That means Jordan Love's future, in Green Bay at least, is in peril. So Brian Gutekunst, again, was asked, hey, what's the future of Jordan Love if Aaron Rodgers decides to return? Here's what Brian Gutekunst said on the future of his former first-round quarterback.
I would be very doubtful that I would take very many of those calls, to begin with, but this isn't the time that those calls happen. So I think everybody right now is just kind of, we're all preparing, getting the information from your draft meetings and the combine and free agency meetings and things like that, trying to kind of map out what you're going to do, what options are available to you. But those calls don't happen right now.
So, okay, sure. Technically, sorry about that they're not going to be getting calls right now because everyone's getting ready for the draft. And obviously no one knows the future of Aaron Rodgers. So you are more focused on the scouting combine and your draft board right now with free agency not even beginning yet. With that said, though, if Aaron Rodgers decides to stay, you better be getting on the horn if you're the Packers GM and calling teams to make a trade for Jordan Love. You can't keep him on the roster. There's no reason to keep him on the roster. What is the benefit, honestly? Someone tell me. Because you now have a quarterback that's going into year number 3, a former first-round pick going into year number 3, who has started so far through the first 2 seasons of his career, just 1 game because Aaron Rodgers got COVID. Now, with the way quarterback contracts work, right after year 3, you have the option to pick up a 5th-year option or not. For the quarterback position, it's going to be a hefty price. The 5th-year option for Jordan Love is not going to be cheap. So now you have to decide whether to exercise that or not after year 3. If Aaron Rodgers is back in 2022 again, Jordan Love ain't playing, and Aaron Rodgers is on an extension. So Jordan Love's not going to play in year 3. He's probably not going to play in year 4. He probably won't even play in year 5. So if you're the Packers, you're not going to hold on to a quarterback for 5 years, waste the entire benefit of drafting a quarterback in the first round, which is cheap labor, and you hope that you can construct a team good enough around him to where you can have postseason success early in that contract to where, again, the quarterback is still cheap. You don't have to pay him $40 million a season. So you're going to waste the entire benefit of drafting a quarterback in the first round. And then what? After 5 years, if Aaron Rodgers retires, give him a new deal? How the hell are you going to pay him? Not to mention, every single year you hold on to Jordan Love, his trade value plummets. But if you keep Aaron Rodgers, you're going all in for a Super Bowl. You're not worried about 2 or 3 years from now. You're worried about right now, the next year or two, can we get over the hump and win the big game? So trading Jordan Love right now, heading into year 3, you will get value back. Whether it's a second round pick, whether it's maybe a first round pick if a team is desperate enough, whether it's a player, you can get some sort of asset that you can either flip to help your team get better, or you can use to draft, more talent on your roster. And again, put Green Bay in a better situation to have success in the postseason. So there's no excuse. There is no rationale to not trade Jordan Love if you decide, or if Aaron Rodgers decides, I should say, to return to the Packers and there's a new deal. So Brian Gutekunst, I get right now, can say, I'm not worried about Jordan Love calls. I don't think I will answer the phone if anyone's calling about Jordan Love right now. It's easier to say that. It probably has to say that because he doesn't know the future of his quarterback. You're not going to say, yeah, we're going to trade Jordan Love, and then all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers is out of here, and now it's, oh, actually, Jordan, just kidding. It's your time. But can't be playing around here. The minute Aaron Rodgers says, I'm back, the minute that brand new contract extension is signed, you got to be on the horn, making deals, engaging offers for what Jordan Love can get back in a trade. So those are the 3 biggest takeaways I've had from Brian Gutekunst's press conference yesterday. He has said, even though reports say Aaron Rodgers, if he asked for a trade, the Packers would acquiesce, he says not so fast. No agreement was ever made. I don't believe him. If Aaron Rodgers wants a trade, it's in the Packers' best interest to trade him. You're going to lose the player anyway. You don't want to also have him kicking and screaming on the way out and upset the fan base, and not having only them lose their all-time great franchise quarterback, but also now have them upset and be mad at the franchise. There is a possibility, Brian Gutekunst said, of Devonta Adams leaving a free agency. That absolutely cannot happen. You need to keep the best wide receiver in your building no matter what, whether it's franchise tag, whether it's contract extension. You got to keep Devonta with you in Green Bay. There's no excuse to let him go, sign with any of the 31 other teams. And Brian Gutekunst said he hasn't even thought about trade offers yet for Jordan Love. He hasn't even picked up the phone or heard any calls. He won't listen to any calls. You could say that now. The minute Aaron Rodgers says, I'm back, the second later you should be calling for Jordan Love deals. You absolutely cannot hold on to Jordan Love into 2022 if Rodgers is back.